For some reason, I feel like I just haven't been seeing Onix paddles at the courts lately, and I really don't know why. And after all, I felt like before carbon fiber paddles came into the picture, Onix was probably one of the paddles that I saw most commonly. And they do have a carbon fiber paddle on the market, and that's the Onix Premier Pro. And now after having played with it, I will say this paddle is anything but vanilla. I think players with certain playing styles would really like the Premier Pro, and others not so much, but we'll get into that. This is the same Onix Premier Pro that's used by Onix pros Callie Smith, Lucy Kovalova, and Matt Wright. Instead of the usual 1 or 2 thickness options, the Premier Pro actually has 4 thicknesses you can choose from, and that ranges from the 10mm they call max power, all the way to the 16mm they call max control. I thought it'd be fun to take a chance and put that max power label to the 10mm to the test. I believe this is the version that Matt Wright uses, and that's the version I'm going to base my review on today. And if you like the review, don't forget to subscribe so I can keep making more content like this, and you can be the first to know about new paddle reviews, drill ideas, and other stuff I come up with. Here's a few things you should definitely know about the Onix Premier Pro. It is carbon fiber and thermoformed, and like mentioned before, there's 4 thicknesses available. Each of those thicknesses comes with their own weight range. The 10mm ranges from 7.25 to 7.5 ounces, the 12 and 14mm range from 7.5 to 8 ounces, and the thickest, the 16mm, ranges from 7.75 to 8.25 ounces. Depending on which version you get, there's also different handle lengths as well. The 10 and 12mm have 5-inch handles, and the 14 and 16mm have 5.35-inch long handles. This paddle's listed at $200, but I added a link in the description below that'll knock 15% off that, and when ordering through this link, the code is automatically applied once you put the paddle in the cart and actually go to checkout, and you'll see it go down to around that $170 mark, which seems to be around industry standard for what carbon fiber paddles are going for these days. In terms of how the paddle feels and how it plays, there's 2 huge pros I noticed right off the bat. The first is maneuverability. I'm telling you, you can really whip this paddle around. The very first time I measured the swing weight, came back with a number of 101, and honestly, I just did not believe it. I rechecked the calibration on my machine, I ran other paddles that I already felt comfortable with and that I knew the real numbers for, and it checks out. Indeed, the swing weight for my paddle was 101. This is the lowest swing rate of any paddle that I've personally ever played with, and I felt like it translated onto the court pretty obviously. The second big pro that I noticed right away is this has definitely got to be one of the most spinny paddles that I've played with. I put this right up there with the Legacy Pro, the Mach 1 Forza, and the Engage Pursuit Pro series, and honestly, it may be even more spinny than those. I could see clear breaks in the trajectory of the ball, and a lot of times shots like this high drive would end up landing in. In addition to a swing weight of 101, the twist weight came back at 5.86. And while that doesn't seem wildly low to me, I think it contributes a lot to the maneuverability of the paddle, but also leads me into my first con. I did find that without lead tape, the sweet spot was kind of small, and I had some off-edge hits that kind of threw me off. So I ended up adding 3 grams of lead tape halfway up the side of the paddle, and that helped quite a bit. And while the power and fast game came really naturally with this paddle, one thing that took some work was control. My first time playing with it, I definitely had a few pop-ups, and I learned that it took deliberate concentration to really keep my control under wraps. That great pop came with a price, and I found I had to really think precisely to keep the ball in play. And I'm not saying having good control was out of reach with this paddle by any means. but for me, it did just take a lot of concentration and work. And it took time, but after I was able to rein that in, I actually found the soft game was really fun. I was able to put good slice and top spin on my drops and dinks, and that was pretty cool. Overall, my takeaway for the Premier Pro is generally positive. I still don't really know why I don't see more Onix paddles, at least the carbon fiber thermoform versions, out there on a day-to-day basis. Maybe it's a marketing thing, maybe it's the idea that people like new models and they're always trying to get the next best thing. I don't really know, but it doesn't seem to be a problem with paddle quality. And generally for this max power 10mm version, truly this is an overt power paddle. You'll probably really like this paddle if you're a player that likes to play fast. This thing's great at drives, as power and spin, and you can move it to new positions very, very easily. If pop, power, maneuverability are the most important things, they're top of your list, this is gonna be a great paddle for you. If you have a hard time keeping really poppy paddles under control, this is probably not the paddle for you. It's definitely an overt power paddle and it has a ton of pop. If you're more geared towards control and more of a slower game, you're probably gonna wanna step up, stay away from the 10mm, try maybe the 14 or 16mm versions. And again, it may be hard to extrapolate my take on the 10mm max power version to all the paddles in the Premier Pro series. And my experience at this point generally tells me that some characteristics can be transferred from different thicknesses of the same paddle design. So I think it's probably safe to assume that most of the Premier Pro paddles lie close on that spectrum of power, spin, control. So if you still want a paddle that has good pop, but not as much as the 10mm, you can probably move up and get a more thick paddle. You'll reduce the pop a little bit, have more control, but obviously the trade-off is going to be a little bit less power. If I personally were going to recommend just one for anyone or get me one today, I would probably recommend the 12mm. I love the power and I love the spin and I love that pop and I don't want to lose it. But I would appreciate just a little bit more control. And like always, if you've had a chance to play with it, let me know your thoughts. Let me know if you agree. And I'd love to hear anything you guys want to see on further reviews or things you think I could do better or different. Thanks a lot.